course, so much happening from Denmark and Greenland to Congress, the Clintons. Our poll question up on X this morning. Good morning, by the way. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning up into Maine. Good morning, New England. Good morning, worldwide. The Pulse of NH. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of NH. And, of course, additional FM signal strength up into Maine, into Portland. Hope you're having a good start to your morning on this Wednesday, J-Dog, the 14th. Mild temperatures, really mild. Going to get up near 50 in most of our places today. We have a packed show for you. Buckle up. Just want to tell you ahead of time. We're going to tell you this morning at 9:35 after our own White House correspondent, John Decker, who was in Detroit yesterday at that Ford Motor Company or Ford plant visit with President Trump on the economy. John Decker will join us live at 9:35. And then we're going to hear from one of our great new partners and sponsors on how you can nominate a veteran. Nominate a veteran. Easy to do. Thank them and their family for their service. Nominate a veteran. We'll tell you how to do it at 9:35. To get a brand new home heating furnace, a new furnace for their home with free installation from our great partners we're going to introduce you to at 9:35. And just thanking the veteran and their family for their service. Then the 10 o'clock hour, WMUR TV's Jennifer Vaughn will be joining us live talking about her latest work. She's also quite a writer and a novelist. She's writing a book, and she's been working really hard on this, and it's very, very important book. No disrespect to books and novels, and having written a few myself, I guess, in the past, sometimes they don't change much. They're a great distraction and entertainment, but what Jennifer is working on is going to help save lives in the veteran, military, and first responder community, looking at the emotional scars of service and mental health. Jennifer Vaughn, 10 o'clock, very important interview coming up. A couple of the other stories I want to get to. We're also speaking to former WMUR, Tiffany Eddy. Tiffany will be joining us, of course, on our Pulse Podcast Network. We have her podcast as a regular feature, anything but politics, talking about the political environment these days. You look at places like Minneapolis, Minnesota. It seems that Minneapolis has become the front line of debate over immigration enforcement in the country. And we're going to hear from her on that. And then also, we're going to introduce you to some of the other news talk this morning. But speaking of the U.S. looking to buy or add Greenland as a state or a part of a U.S. territory, now there's a New Hampshire component. Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire is joined a bipartisan group of senators that are going to be traveling and talking with the leaders of Denmark. And, of course, you're already getting debate over the Trump administration's ambition to acquire or get control of Greenland. So that one is going to brew a little bit more. Go back to the basics. Mild temperatures today, quite mild, actually, J-Dog. Up near 50, certainly high 40s, and maybe a little bit of rain tomorrow before the colder temps come in. Patriots getting ready and awaiting Sunday's game against the Houston Texans at Foxborough. J-Dog on the boards as we get going. Still hearing J-Dog, and it was just a week ago, I think today or yesterday, I think it was a week ago today, we had two great doctors from Enhanced Healthcare. Delphi Healthcare, their Enhanced Primary Care, Delphi Healthcare in Bedford, Dr. Caligari and Dr. Fishbein, talking about this flu strain that has been peaking right here in New Hampshire and in several states, but certainly here in New England. This is a respiratory, I think it's influenza type A, respiratory, coughing, body aches, real body aches. Someone told me their hair hurt. That's how much the body aches. Fever, muscle aches, and fatigue. And I'm just telling you, we have a listener who was traveling and ended up just staying where they were because they didn't even couldn't even think about getting a ride to the airport and on the plane. So they're riding it out. It takes a good week, but we're keeping a track on that. And hopefully things start to get over the peak here. And, when you look at large gatherings and all that coming out of the holidays, but this thing certainly did go around. It was an interesting study I saw, I think it's yesterday on Fox, about they did a controlled study with like 20 people in a hotel room. A couple people were infected with this strain of flu, and they were younger people in middle age, and they were trying to figure out what's the exact how does it really, what's the transmission path? Is it touching a pen or a phone or a table or a glass? Is it, and they found out it was mainly direct. It's like the any virus, coughing, but some people are more resistant, even if they get the virus, or they get the flu, but they don't get sick. So it's just interesting. But of course, the kicker on all this is the flu shot. The flu shot, we talked about last week with our doctors, the flu shot is not really effective with this particular strain that took over this season. So it's not really effective, but I don't mean to say it's ironic, and I really don't want to come between you and your doctor or primary care or PA. You should talk with your doctor, or certainly pharmacist can be helpful, but everyone tells you should probably get the shot, and then you hear it's not effective. So it's like, okay, how about if I leave that one up to you? I chose to pass on this one, but that's just me. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. Bruins last night, J-Dog. We had the game for you on the Pulse. I watched that, and, Detroit was ahead of that Atlantic Division. The Bruins, I think they're 6 points behind, but they had a good, solid game last night against the Red Wings.
It was a shutout.
Yeah, they had a good, steady, solid game. I'm beginning to really like this Bruins team. Real balance, real good game, fun game to watch last night. Also, a little bit later on, Auto Fair, sponsors of our state police segment, we'll tell you about some great perks and deals later this hour before I go to the 10 o'clock I call it season ticket perks for being a Pulse of an H listener. And we'll tell you about some used vehicles and how you can go check them out, because you can pay about a third of what you're going to spend for a new vehicle. No disrespect against new stuff, but all the new stuff, if you haven't really checked that out, is just very, very expensive. We're going to, I think later on this morning, make it a quick check-in from one of our academic political all-stars on this Bill and Hillary Clinton story. If you're not catching it, you just heard in our local news today, Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, presidential candidate, First Lady, spouse or partner, if you will, of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, the former president, Congress wants to talk to them about all things Jeffrey Epstein, all things with the Clinton, mainly Bill Clinton's time and visits and airplane rides and sitting in the hot tubs. They want to talk to the Clintons, what they knew and what they knew when. And the Clintons right now are basically blowing off Congress, ignoring, not showing up. Could they? How does this work? Could they be held in contempt? And that's our poll question up on X at the Pulse of an H this morning. Should they be? But I want to know just more of a constitutional point of view with a former president, former first lady, or secretary of state. If they refuse to testify, if they're asked by Congress to come testify and they blow it off, they refuse. Like if you or if I or you or anyone we knew was asked by a congressional committee and all the formal communications, if you're contacted to come appear before the committee and answer questions on something, I don't know, J-Dog. I don't know if we could just blow that off and we could be held in contempt. But I'm trying to figure out, in this case, a former president, are there any privileges or rights where he can or she can just not appear? But we're gonna dive into that one a little bit later on. But the Epstein thing is one of those stories that just doesn't seem to go away. This political divisive environment, Tiffany Eddy, Anything But Politics or Podcast, get some thoughts from her, former WMUR TV on-air person. And then a little bit later on, John Decker, our White House correspondent. And then I really want to tee this one up because I want to get some activity going this morning. We're going to direct you to the website. But a little bit later on, right after our John Decker update, Morgan Storm, what a great name, Morgan Storm from Triumph Home Services is going to be joining us because we're partnering with them. Great partner and sponsor, new sponsor. You can nominate a veteran, a New Hampshire veteran, for a free furnace, a home furnace. You've heard of York, different brands, a home furnace in their home, depending on what they need. Triumph Home Services, honor a hero. We've done this before with hot tubs, but this one's a furnace. Great time of year for that. Free installation. Nominate a veteran in your life. We're going to tell you how to do that. And we thank you, the veterans, and your families for your service. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, back in a moment.
Looking for smarter bets and straight
Austin. Visit them online at outdoorpride.com. Now back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
Great to have Tiffany Eddy back on the show, and really pleased that we have her podcast that she does, and it's really done well. She said I was going to be a guest on it once, J-Dog, and she never followed up, but we'll leave that for another day. But anything but politics, Tiffany Eddy, former WMUR TV personality, and in this environment, not only here in New Hampshire, Tiffany, but nationally, it's a pretty good subject, pretty good name for a podcast. How are you?
I'm great, Jack. How are you?
Doing okay.
Thanks for having me on.
Well,
and just for the record, just to be clear, I've invited you on several times, and you've been elusive. So I don't know if I have to talk to your agent or, what has to take place. But, boy, you've got some stories that we would love to hear.
Well, I was sharing some the other day on the Pam Smart tapes. Oh, my goodness. Hey, let's just talk about the environment, Tiffany. You pay attention. You're a former news anchor. You know what. Let's just get away. Let's just not Minneapolis. It's probably the epicenter of the hotbed, if you will, on immigration enforcement, immigration debate, ICE, you name it. It's pretty tense situation there. But let's drift away from that. Let's just use the example of Greenland, because now we have a New Hampshire connection with U.S. Senator Jeanne Shaheen joining a bipartisan group to go talk to the leaders of Denmark. And John Decker, our White House correspondent, I'll wrap this up quickly, Tiffany. He and I were reminding each other, this attention to Greenland, but everything's so divisive today. People don't even step back. This president has been looking at this, talking about this. In fact, people forget a year ago, one of his sons went on a trip over there for 2 weeks to Greenland. The president's been talking about the strategic significance. After World War II, we have a pretty good military installation relationship because Greenland and the Arctic, but Greenland is a very strategic rooftop, if you will, to us, China, Russia, you name it. And I get it. But this idea of buying Greenland, this isn't the first American presidents that floated this, but, the leader of Denmark, even this has become so politically divisive. And Senator Shaheen going there, I don't think she's a fan of the Trump administration getting aggressive to buy Greenland. But this divisive environment, everything is divided, it seems, down the middle. It just seems to me everything is divisive, and things like Minneapolis just deepen the divide. May not change much in terms of where you're at on how you view things, but it's very divisive environment.
Yes, I agree. I don't think divisiveness is anything new to politics, though, because I think if you go back to our founding fathers and politics over history, I mean, we used to tar and feather political opponents. So I think it's just in this new technology age, it's perhaps heightened it. I'm not a big fan of how social media has allowed so many different people to just kind of randomly spout out their opinions without, having to face somebody. I think that's one of the things that we're trying to do with Anything But Politics is when you sit down and you have a conversation with someone and you can understand, what their background is and what motivates them. I think that kind of ratchets down the rhetoric. And I think that personal human connection is really important to having a discourse. And we're not always going to agree on everything, but if we can, I think, get in a room and have conversations, I think that can perhaps dial back some of the divisiveness that you're seeing. I don't know if that's exactly what you were looking for.
Well, I'm not looking for anything. I'm looking at everything. I guess you can't avoid talking about Minneapolis for a moment. And we have a listener responding and agreeing with what you just said about, the division it's not new, but it seems intensified. And you just look at all the different video versions of the immigration enforcement or the ICE agent shooting of the woman in the vehicle, and just leave it at that. All the different, viewing, even the viewing of the different videos, it's almost in the eyes of the beholder. In other words, if you were in favor of ICE immigration enforcement, the operations going into cities, arresting wanted immigration, fugitives, even if you don't agree, they're all fugitives. But if you supportive of that, you were supportive before. If you were anti-ICE, anti-Trump, this just deepens your angst, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's part of the tragedy of today is that, not just a tragic situation where somebody's life was lost, but the fact that it's, as you just put it, it's you view it through the lens of your own opinion. And so you're absolutely right. It's one person could view it and say that's a horrible tragedy, and someone else could say, no, that's absolutely justified. So I don't know how you dial back that rhetoric except by continuing to do what we're trying to do is really sit down and get to know people and understand their motivations. And then I think that makes it easier to understand and have a more informed opinion about what takes place, in Minneapolis or, in New Hampshire politics.
Well, you just ended with where I wanted to go next. Tiffany Eddy, her podcast, Anything But Politics. We also feature and help promote that, or also promote it. It's a great podcast on our Pulse Podcast Network at thepulseofanh.com. New Hampshire politics. Let's talk about that, because New Hampshire, it's interesting, Tiffany, not only is Senator Shaheen going to Denmark with this group, reference Greenland, but New Hampshire, Governor Kelly Ayotte, Republican lawmakers made it very clear we are not a sanctuary city state. Whether or not you think we have these cities or not, a few have sort of pushed us, but Kelly Ayotte made it clear. She also made it clear that any federal immigration enforcement operation here, the state police and police will cooperate. Some communities, you know what's happening in Minneapolis, they say they won't.
Mm-hmm.
But other issues, Supreme Court yesterday, hearing these cases on, transgender sports, women or boys, transgender women's sports, all the debate right outside the Supreme Court, including asking one of the attorneys, how do you define gender and sex? And no answer. But these issues may come back here. So a lot of the national tenor and tone do come back to New Hampshire and the State House, yes or no?
Yeah, of course I think they do. And I think on the transgender issue, there was a lawsuit stemming from an incident that happened at the Bow High School, and I believe a girls' soccer game. But yeah, I always think New Hampshire is kind of a major political epicenter, not just because of our First Nation primary, but we're really active and engaged. And so people really care about what's taking place in our state. So yes, I do agree with you. And I think a lot of times, we used to joke in the Channel 9 newsroom that every time there was a big national story, there was always a New Hampshire connection. I don't know if that you had that same experience when you were news director there.
I remember us noticing that too. J-Dog, way back when you were a kid, it was that one story out of New York. Remember the subway gunman suspect was caught in Concord, New Hampshire? Yeah, there's always that. Hey, Tiffany, before I let you go, by the way, speaking of your alma mater, WMUR, Jennifer Vaughn in the next hour talking about her latest book on mental health, emotional side of service for veterans. But, you mentioned that Bow High School at the time when all the, transgender questions in sports, the Bow High School, I referenced it yesterday. And I remember, I won't mention the candidate, but I remember having a very well-known congressional candidate on my show in the last year talking about her getting into a congressional race and has a background in sports and coaching. And I just asked her, and you're going to see this between now and November here in New Hampshire, and you being a former interviewer, how simple is the question? Like, if you were hypothetically, Tiffany, running for Congress, Republican, Democrat, I don't care, independent, federal seat, this question could come up in a vote. Very germane, very fair question. I'm not expecting you to answer it because you're not, as far as I know, running for Congress, Tiffany. But I asked this person, this simple question, because a very sports-oriented background and coach. Are you, if someone asked you on the weekend, I said to her, and you're running for office, are you for or against boys or men playing in girls and women's sports? That's what that's a 3-second question, isn't it? Are you for?
That's a simple question.
Are you for or against boys playing in girls or women's sports or men? And 5 minutes later, you needed a political translator and interpreter because I had no idea what the answer was, but the question wasn't answered, would not be answered, because this is a position that when you run for office, and I think you need to answer these questions, even if you lose voters, you got to answer the question, right?
You do have to answer the question. And I think that's also brings up the important point of doing interviews too, and making sure, and that's not the direction of anything but politics. We don't try to put people on the spots about positions. And that's, I think we want to hear about their background and what motivated them and to kind of get to know them as a human. So, and there's plenty of different avenues where people can go on the record and talk about their positions. But also as an interviewer, you have to try to hold that person, accountable for what they say, and maybe even, continue to hammer them a little bit and say, well, I appreciate that answer, but could you explain a little bit more?
I don't want to pull it off the digital archives, but I asked 3 times the same question. I got 3 different answers. But listen, it just is what it is. All right, listen, and one thing I really do like and enjoy and applaud about anything about politics is you're humanizing these public figures, whether if they have a passion for culinary, for cooking, for making furniture, for snowshoeing, for writing. The more that we can humanize, and I'll never forget, speaking of WMUR TV, I think it was Amanda Ober. I think she's still anchoring news in Orlando, Florida, but I had brought her in. She was one of our main anchors, and she had this idea because she did the earlier afternoon show. In the newsroom that you well knew, WMUR, we had a area during the presidential primaries, not for this, but it was a kitchen. So we had chefs come in, and Amanda and the other anchor.
Cook's Corner.
It might have been Tom Griffin. We started that then. I think it was her idea. She goes, Jack, as news director, let's just do Cook's Corner. And then one of us had this idea when we had people in the building, like presidential governors, people running for president. Let's ask their people, do they like to cook? And a lot of them said yes. In fact, their favorite, one of the candidates liked to cook chili. So next thing you know, Amanda's out there and the candidate has they're cutting up onions and running for president. But that's the kind of stuff we need to bring back. Civil, respectful discussion.
Yeah, we call it the humanity behind the headlines. And you're absolutely right. We've had state rep on who's a beekeeper, was fascinating. Somebody else who's a pain management expert and works with the NFL. I'm going to mention this because I loved the Grateful Dead and was very sad about the passing of Bobby Weir. Executive counselor Karen Leo Hill is a big music fan, loves jam bands, and it's really interesting when you get to know these people, what some of their interests are, and that they have a life, because a lot of times I think you see people and you see them in the newspaper, you see them on TV, and you hear about the positions, and you see them, perhaps as a politician or a business leader, but you don't necessarily understand that there's a real human being behind them that has children and interests and hobbies and does things that contribute to the community. So, yeah, I think, we're all, complex individuals. And I think when you can learn more about someone beyond just what you see in the headlines, it really can help humanize them.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany. Have a good Wednesday. Go ahead.
Jack, since you're on the record, you will come on the podcast?
Yeah, let's do it here at the building. No, I'm kidding. Just let me know when and where in the next week or two. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Take care.
When we come back, John Decker, our White House correspondent, and then we're going to tell you how you can nominate a veteran to win a brand new furnace. Back in a moment.
News Studios. Now back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, welcome back. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, joining us live. And I know you were viewing a Ford Motor plant in Detroit yesterday with the president on Air Force One. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning. Yes, just a day trip out and back to Detroit, Michigan. The president touring the Ford F-150 assembly plant in Dearborn, and then the president delivering a speech to the Detroit Economic Club. And I had an opportunity to obviously travel with the president, ask him a few questions during that trip. And the president, while he's focused on the domestic economy, that was the focus yesterday, also answering a number of other questions regarding Iran and also questions regarding Greenland and the future of Greenland as well.
You know, it's interesting. New Hampshire Senator Jeanne Shaheen, who's not running again, but still senior ranking, going to Denmark, bipartisan group. So Greenland, very much, we've talked about that. But what about when it comes to Iran? Considering options, things are very tense there. What was your question? What was the president's short answer?
Well, the question I asked the president is, as you know, Jack, the president has given a number of warnings to the Iranian leadership over the course of the last few days. And yet they continue to defy the president. They continue to attack those protesters who are protesting peacefully in many parts of Iran. And I asked the president, why does he believe that those leaders in Iran continue to defy the president? And the president maintains, give it a few days. He thinks that they will capitulate. But clearly, they are defying the president in the sense that those attacks, those deadly attacks on those protesters are continuing.
Thank you, John Decker, our White House correspondent. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I talk with people like Tiffany Eddy, who was just on, Jennifer Vaughn will be joining us the next hour, and they'll say, what do you like most about doing your show after all these years? And my short answer is this next segment. This is the stuff that makes me happy or feel good in a very crazy world today. This is the stuff that you don't necessarily always hear about, the good stuff. And we have Tom Raffio, president and CEO of Northeast Delta Dental, on Monday and Friday, just with good news, because I always believe we need to remember there's good news. Morgan Storm not only has an awesome name, just listen to that name, Morgan Storm, what a great name, but Triumph Home Services is a great partner and sponsor, and I guess partner really here with the Pulse on what they do for their services, but they are doing something really cool. They don't have to, but they want to. And you can nominate a veteran, you can honor a hero, nominate a veteran in your life, and she's going to tell us how to do this at Triumph, like winning, Triumph Home Services, to get a brand new furnace with installation as a thank you to that veteran and their family. Morgan, thanks for being with us on Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of NH.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about why you're doing this furnace giveaway and installation to a veteran. What's motivating you and your team and your company?
Absolutely. So we came up with this in December because we realized that there's an unfortunate need for a lot of people that struggle, especially veterans that can't necessarily afford things, and getting a new furnace isn't always the cheapest. So if we have the space and the time and the people that can do it, then why not give something to somebody in need and at complete zero cost to them?
Well, I think it's something that you're doing because you want to do it. You don't have to. You want to do it. And that's what I love. Tell us a little bit about Triumph Home Services. Where are you out of? What do you do? Obviously, HV or home, heating, furnaces. Just tell us a little bit about you and your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was started 5 years ago, and now we've grown into, we have our office in Bow, we have an office in West Lebanon, and now we have a new office coming in Keene. We do HVAC, electrical, plumbing, pretty much a whole home service outlet. That's what we're there to be. We're your friend, your neighbor, and we're there to help with whatever you need.
Well, on this show here, as we say, our friends at New Hampshire Technical Institute, great sponsor of my show here at the Pulse of NH. Our friends at Procon Construction and Development. These are great sponsors, and we promote the trades. We promote people working in the trades. These are some of the best opportunities in companies, independent business owners like yourself out there. They're the ones that support the community, create the jobs, whether we're talking about affordable housing or just entering the trade. So I applaud you, and I know you're growing. So let's talk about the important stuff for a moment, Morgan. How can a listener out there, and we have many in the region and streaming everywhere, but listening right now, how can they nominate? Do you have to be a veteran? Can they nominate a veteran? And walk us through how they can enter a veteran important in their life to get a brand new home furnace that will last for years or longer and installation. Take it away, Morgan. Did we lose Morgan?
Nominate.
Go ahead.
Nope, I'm still here. You can nominate somebody all the way up until February 13th. You can nominate yourself, or you can nominate somebody in need. All you have to do is go to our website, triumphhc.com/honor a hero, or you can always go onto our Facebook page as well. We have it right at the top, and you follow that out the form, and it's as simple as that.
So again, I just do a lot of advocacy in the veteran community, and I know kind of how veterans think a little bit. Easy to do on the form. What information are they going to need? Could it be the spouse of a veteran, the child of a veteran, the neighbor of a veteran? Pretty basic information on who, what, when, where, the home. Do they have to tell about their service? What are you looking for on the entry to nominate?
Absolutely. It's as simple as your name, your address, and tell us why this veteran deserves a free furnace.
Just
and if you're doing it for yourself, you fill out yours. And then if you're nominating somebody else, you fill out their information and why, and then your name and your email. And it's as simple as that.
And let me do a quick addition to what Morgan said here is my show here. Veterans, I know you're not real good for the most part of putting your hand up and feeling like you want a handout. This is a hand up. This is a thank you from Triumph Home Services for your service and from the Pulse of an H. This isn't like you have to feel funny saying why you feel you'd appreciate this new furnace. So don't be reticent or shy, reluctant. If you need a new furnace, you proudly serve this state and country. Be proud of that. Don't feel like you don't earn this. You already earned it. This is a chance for Morgan and us here to serve you, I believe. Do you agree with that, Morgan?
Absolutely. You've done enough for us. Now it's our chance to do something for you.
All right. So go to triumphhc.com. Triumph Home Services, headquartered in Bow and growing in Morgan Storm. Thank you, Morgan. We're going to promote it on our end here at the Pulse of an H as well.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
And Morgan, before you go, between now and then, I want to get you in a few weeks in studio and meet you when I'm doing the show in Concord versus the Seacoast someday. So we'll get you down the road here near the Capitol in our studios. And Sherry on our team tells me that we're going to, once you pick the winner, we're going to do it on my show live and get a hold of that person. Is that right?
Yes, we are. We're going to announce the winner live on air.
That'd be awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Morgan, for what you do. And if people want to learn more about Triumph, like Triumph winning, triumphhc.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, we also, J-Dog, here at the Pulse of NH, the Pulse of NH, pulseofnh.com. You'll see nominate a New Hampshire veteran for a free furnace. The U.S., help us basically honor a hero. Nominate a New Hampshire veteran for a free furnace, a free home furnace, and installation, no catches, no like, I'm a veteran or a nominated veteran. We got this free furnace, but then I got this big bill for the installation. No. This is a thank you. This is an honor and thanking you for your service and your family to keep warm and cozy in the house. And you served us. So this is just to get a brand new state-of-the-art furnace with a great company and installation. So go to the Pulse of NH. You'll see the furnace giveaway. We'll do it on air, my show here in a few weeks, or triumphhc.com. We come back. We'll update you on some of the other news talk. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of NH. In the next hour, Jennifer Vaughn, WMUR TV anchor, one of their main anchors, in her latest book to help veterans, speaking of veterans and service members. Back in a moment.
107.7 From the Outdoor Pride Studios. Now back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right. Who thought that would be asking this in a poll question up on X at the Pulse of NH this morning? We'll have results for you tomorrow. And J-Dog, I'm not sure if you've culled the results from yesterday, but do you think Bill and Hillary Clinton should be held in contempt of Congress for not testifying on all things Epstein? Yes or no? And former First Lady, Secretary of State, presidential candidate is not going to appear today. Bill Clinton did not appear yesterday. And this is a story that keeps going. What do you think? Yes or no? J-Dog, do we have results from yesterday?
Could ICE reduce its presence in Minneapolis? 80% no, 20% yes.
Yeah, try telling the Minneapolis mayor there. It's a hot spot, obviously. Hey, we've shared with you a lot of tips, and I call them listener season ticket holder perks, like our friends at Auto Fair, sponsors of our state police segment. And you can call Debbie there. Just call Debbie, she's great. I've known her for years. One of the managers at Auto Fair Honda across the Mall, New Hampshire. I'll give you their number. Excuse me. The reason why you want to call her and just say Jack Radio Show is get an early look at one of their used pickup trucks, Honda Ridgeline, or might be another brand, or SUVs, all-wheel drives, great time of year, and pay about a third of a new vehicle cost, but they have great listings that they're putting together for us here at the Pulse of NH, for you, our listeners, because spending my UVM math would tell me, I joke a lot about my University of Vermont math. Truth is, I never took a math or science course my 4 years at UVM and did graduate. But my UVM math would tell me that spending 20 or 25 grand for a vehicle that smells and looks new, I just love how they come out of the showroom when they clean them up, especially this time of year with all the salt on the road. But getting a vehicle for about a third of the cost is pretty darn good these days, because these vehicles, well taken care of and serviced like at Auto Fair, will last a couple 100,000 miles. So call Debbie, 603-634-4726, 603-634-4726, 603-634-4726. All right. Also, I mentioned earlier the trades, and we talked about New Hampshire Technical Institute. We're going to hear from them soon on their continued promoting the trades. And by the way, New Hampshire Technical Institute is one of our great partners and sponsors. And I don't know if you knew this, but per capita, they offer the lowest college tuition rate, or the lowest tuition in the state of New Hampshire is offered by New Hampshire Technical Institute. Of all the 7 community colleges, their tuition rates are the most affordable. And they have programs in HVAC, plumbing, heating, electrical, building design, law enforcement, medical imaging. But the trades here in New Hampshire, we have many listeners on my show who are in the trades. We just had a great partner and sponsor, Sherry Cody works with them, Triumph Home Services, and we're giving away this furnace. We have Procon Development and Construction, great new partner and sponsor, and they're specifically targeting spreading the word on affordable housing. Very important. And John Stebbins and Tracy and the team at Procon Corp, Procon Development, Procon Building, Procon are supporting and sponsors, and we'll hear from them, I think, next Wednesday, and we'll talk a little bit in the next hour on affordable housing and these, the ADUs, these accessible, affordable dwellings that some states are really wanting people to build in their backyard to get a nice, safe home for a loved one, so they don't have to go into a home that's not yours or theirs, but they can be right in your backyard. And we need local communities to be more flexible on their zoning to want these accessible, the ADUs. And that's a subject. And building apartments that are affordable. Procon, great partner and sponsor. But there's a great new website that I want to tell you about for builders and developers and realtors. And it's really focused on the Seacoast, but it's a great place for you to go get your news and information. So if you want all the dirt on Seacoast building and development, and we have great listeners now on the Pulse of NH up into Maine, check out seacoastdirt.com, seacoastdirt.com. Seacoast Dirt, all one word, seacoastdirt.com. Check it out. And it's all just a great building and development real estate site of local news for you on planning board stuff and zoning and just information, but, stuff about what you do. But I want to take a moment and elaborate on many of our sponsors here at the Pulse of NH and our advertisers. It's a partnership. It is a partnership. And so many of our sponsors and so many of you, our listeners, are independent business owners. And you don't think of this, but you carry the weight of all these great companies, of all these businesses. I mean, we just had on Norma Strong with Triumph Home Services.
Strong.
What is it? J-Dog, what?
Morgan Strong.
Oh, what did I say?
Norma.
Oh, geez, Morgan. Oh, you know why? It's a character, a movie character I was thinking of. Morgan Storm, but a great last name, Storm. I also think of, wasn't that Steven Seagal's detective name in one of his movies, Storm?
Yes.
Okay. Morgan Storm. Triumph Home Services. Great partner and sponsor and advertiser here at the Pulse. Triumph Home Services, giving away this furnace. What did she say, J-Dog? They started 5 years ago in Bow, and now they're in 3 communities. If you are burnt out, you don't like your job, go to New Hampshire Technical Institute. Look at these associate degrees in the trades. If you wanted to do something with your hands and you didn't know much about electrical or putting in a mini split, there are great companies out there. And I got a buddy, Tim Cullen, and he'll tell you this. There are many, many businesses out there that will hire you if you have the right attitude and train you and pay you, but train you for what you don't know. But you can go to these community colleges for like $7,000 a year and get a 2-year associate degree for what, $14,000 over 2 years and not go broke and come out with an associate degree and go to one of these great companies like Triumph Home Services, TriumphHC.com, one of our great partners and advertisers, Morgan Storm's company, or our friends who were in recently, J-Dog, the paving company from Tilton in the Lakes region, great paving company. What do you say? They have like 85 employees, 50-something employees, but 85%. I remember 85% are making $100,000 or more. And what was that?
R&D paving.
R&D paving. Matthew and his, I think him and his brother or the owners came in and did a segment on the paving company. 80% of their employees are making over $100,000 a year, and they're a family-oriented company. These independent business owners, you're the backbone. You can talk about Amazon and Google and Meta all day long, but our independent business owners are the backbone of our local economy, and you're the ones that the communities go to support stuff. So thank you all very much in the trades. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, by the Pulse Finish. Coming up, Jennifer Vaughn, WMUR TV anchor, and a latest book she's working on to help people on the front line, first responders, military, with the emotional side of service. Milder temperatures in for your Wednesday. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, by the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, J-Dog on the boards. Back in a moment.